In the throes of despair, I leaped from a building. It all began at an engagement banquet. I was resplendent in a red gown, exuding elegance and poise. But in the blink of an eye, the video playing on the large screen titled Sweet Love suddenly transformed. The boyfriend I thought was devoted to me had already strayed, and to my shock, my parents weren't my biological ones. Everything was a lie. So what was real? Consumed by grief, I flung away the engagement ring and angrily punched the unfaithful cad. I'm not getting married, damn it. I had a dream. In it, I discovered my boyfriend was cheating on me with my own sister. Heartbroken, I went to a bar to drown my sorrows. But the more I drank, the sadder I became. Late at night, after leaving the bar, I stumbled into a small alley and was abducted by a group of hooligans who had been following me. They took me to an abandoned warehouse, where I endured 3 of the longest and most agonizing days of my life. 3 days later, the police rescued me. My mother hugged me, crying uncontrollably, while my father smoked, head bowed in silence. This brought a glimmer of warmth to my numb heart. I thought fortunately my family still loved me, but I was wrong. After persuading me not to make a fuss or call the police, they sent me abroad, claiming I had disgraced the Grace family. And while I was suffering, they held a grand wedding for my sister and my former fiancé. I saw the wedding video sent to me by my dear sister Olivia. The scene was dreamily and luxuriously decorated. Fresh flowers airlifted from abroad filled the entire venue in her favorite colors, pink and blue. She and Marcus smiled at each other amidst the falling flowers and kissed passionately. The groom was tall and handsome, and the bride was petite and gorgeous. Even the master of ceremonies couldn't help exclaiming, "What a lovely couple!" Yes, I closed my eyes. Indeed, what a lovely couple, a perfect match of a scoundrel and a villain. The video also had a caption, and it was these words that pushed me to the brink of despair. You were an unwanted child from the start. Your biological parents abandoned you, and it was my parents who picked you up from the garbage dump. So no one loves you. If I were you, I wouldn't have the face to continue living in this world. At that time, I was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, and my emotions were extremely fragile. The double blow of the video and the truth was too much to bear, and my already wavering will to live instantly collapsed. I no longer fought to survive, but I also didn't want to let them off easy. I used my last money to buy a plane ticket back to the city. In the dead of night, I sneaked past the security patrol and secretly climbed to the top floor of the Grace Group building. Under the cover of darkness, I hung a pre-prepared banner from the top floor and sat on the rooftop to watch the sunrise for the last time. The sun, which never stops for anyone, arrived as promised, shining brightly. At 8:30 in the morning, the busiest time at the Grace Group, with people coming and going either to work or just passing by, I smiled and took the leap. I was free and the dream ended. For a moment I couldn't tell if this was reality or a dream. I didn't know if it was truly just a dream or a past life I had actually experienced. The person beside me on the pillow was sleeping soundly, emitting a faint snore. I gathered my wits and pinched the soft flesh on his waist hard, with all my strength and no mercy. Sure enough, I heard a yelp. It seemed really painful. Woken up by my pinch, Marcus looked annoyed for a moment. He lowered his head and then looked up again, his face full of resentment, looking at me like a pitiful puppy. Honey, why did you pinch me?" Anyone would be in a bad mood if suddenly woken from a deep sleep, but he wasn't normal. His emotions were hidden. I reached a conclusion instantly, so I deliberately pretended to be dazed. "Huh, did I pinch you? Look, it's red." Marcus turned on the light to show me. I raised my hand to block the blinding light, muttering, "Then I must have had a nightmare. Go back to sleep. We have to work tomorrow." Seeing this, Marcus thought I really had a nightmare. He turned off the light, rolled over and soon fell asleep again. As for me, I lay quietly beside him, wide awake all night. Indeed, I had lived such a miserable and aggrieved life in my past life that even God couldn't bear to watch, so he sent me back to start anew. Well, in this life I needed to carefully plan how to give those who hurt me a big gift. In my past life, when Olivia said I wasn't their biological child, I believed her. If I wasn't, it made sense that their attitude towards me took a nosedive after Olivia was born. If I wasn't, it was understandable that they persuaded me not to pursue the matter after I was rescued, saying it would be bad for my reputation if I made a fuss. If I wasn't, it was reasonable that they let Olivia snatch my fiancé because the Marcus family had become prosperous by then, and Marcus was a good catch. So, all their partiality and neglect towards me over the past 20-plus years became justifiable. However, if they weren't my parents, then where were my biological parents? Perhaps, due to the lack of family affection in my past life, now that I was reincarnated, I wanted to try to find information about my biological parents. Whether I could find them or not, it would be an answer to myself. I decided to act immediately. During the day at work, I asked for leave, saying I wasn't feeling well and needed to go to the hospital. Then I went alone to the blood sample collection point at the Public Security Bureau to collect my blood sample and information. To avoid attracting attention, I was fully masked up. I changed into a set of clothes I had never worn before, put on a fisherman's hat, sunglasses, a mask, and even wore high heels. Because Marcus said I didn't look good in high heels, I usually didn't wear them, only occasionally for company meetings. With this outfit, Marcus probably wouldn't even recognize me if he stood right in front of me. After collecting the blood samples, I found a public restroom to change my clothes and then went back to the company to continue working. The intern I was mentoring whispered, "I heard you went to the hospital. Are you sick?" I smiled at him and said, "It's nothing serious, just a minor ailment." The doctor prescribed some medicine. Although he was the intern I was mentoring, we didn't have much of a personal relationship because Marcus didn't like it. He was extremely jealous and couldn't stand me having any male friends. We had a huge fight over me mentoring a male intern. In the end, I placated him by saying that apart from work, I would have no other interactions with the intern. He also knew it was hard for me to refuse the company's arrangement, so he dropped the matter after I promised him earnestly several times. He said he loved me so much and cared about me so deeply that he didn't want any other man around me except him. I had lived in his sweet words for so long that I didn't notice anything wrong. I had forgotten that he wasn't like this at the beginning, and I wasn't so humble either. We were alumni from the same university and met during a student union activity. After we met, he started to pursue me, but I was always hesitant because he was so handsome and good at charming people with sweet words. I felt very insecure. Marcus seemed helpless about this. How can you judge a person by their appearance? Besides, only you think I'm good-looking. It's just like the saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I rejected him many times, but he wasn't discouraged at all and still pursued me tirelessly. He said, "I've fallen for a girl for the first time, and I'll never give up easily." And he really did what he said. He pursued me for a year and a half sincerely and passionately. In the end, even my roommates were touched. He sent me daily greetings, gave me flowers and gifts on festivals, and was extremely considerate when we went out, never overstepping. Knowing that I liked to stay in bed in the morning, he would bring me breakfast to the classroom every day. He would bring me an umbrella when it rained and hot chestnut stir-fries and half-sugar milk tea when it snowed. His care for me time after time seeped into my life like gentle rain. I was a child lacking in love. Since my sister was born, no one had treated me like this. So, later on, although I was still rejecting him, I was actually already attracted to him. On Christmas Eve of my junior year, he invited me to the amusement park. We took the Ferris wheel together. When the Ferris wheel reached the highest point, I looked at the brilliant night view outside the window and was very happy. Seeing me so happy, he smiled and said to me, "Do you know a legend about the Ferris wheel?" "What legend?" I didn't understand. He gently cupped my face, looked into my eyes, and said softly and affectionately, "When the Ferris wheel reaches the highest point, if you kiss your lover, you will be happy forever." His face was getting closer and closer to mine, and I couldn't help closing my eyes. When his soft lips touched mine, I felt like I was electrified and clenched my fists. He chuckled and whispered in my ear, "Miss Grace, would you like to be my girlfriend?" I opened my eyes and nodded shyly, my face red. He hugged me into his arms and kissed me again. This time it wasn't just a light touch but a deep lingering kiss until I was out of breath before he let me go. We thus established our relationship. During college he had always been very good to me, even better than when he was pursuing me. After graduation it was only natural that we moved in together. In the past I was too greedy for this happiness and ignored many abnormalities in life. After I started working, he frowned and asked me why I didn't work for the Grace Group. We pooled our salaries, and he said he wanted to save money to buy a house and give me a home. He often worked overtime all night and didn't come home. The little manipulations during our usual conversations, the way he brainwashed me bit by bit during our fights, lowering my bottom line. There were so many things that didn't seem right, but I was like a blind person immersed in this false happiness, like a fool being toyed with by the people around me. It wasn't until my last life, when I had the will to die, that I realized this relationship had been mixed with too many other things from the very beginning. Fortunately, now everything was still in time. Marcus hadn't hooked up with Olivia yet. First, he hadn't determined the Grace family's attitude towards me. Second, he wasn't rich enough yet, and Olivia didn't think much of him. I originally planned to take things slowly, but unexpectedly, the opportunity came soon. More than 10 days after the blood sample collection, my phone rang while I was at work. The caller ID showed the Public Security Bureau where I had gone to collect the blood samples. "Hello, is this Miss Grace? The comparison results of your blood samples have come out." After hanging up the phone, I sat at my workstation feeling a bit lost. I was eager to find my biological parents, but I was also very scared. Since they had left records in the system, they should be looking for me, right? But why didn't anyone come to find me until I died in my last life? Would my biological parents be like my adoptive parents, having another child and then no longer loving me? My mind was in a mess, and I didn't know whether I should take the initiative to contact them or not. Unexpectedly, I wanted to wait a bit, but they couldn't wait. On Friday, my adoptive father called me, saying there was something at home and asking me to go back. I glanced at the calendar and racked my brains for a long time before I remembered what had happened on this day in my past life. At that time, I still didn't know I wasn't their biological child. I went home happily for the weekend, but what was waiting for me was a drafted will, stating that all their property would be inherited by Olivia after their death. I was completely stunned. It wasn't because I lost the right to inherit a huge amount of property, but because I was hit hard by my parents' heartlessness. I knew that they had always been partial to my sister. After my sister was born, I was like a servant at home, but I didn't expect that they could be so cruel enough to want to kick me out immediately. Tears streamed down my face and I choked. Why? What have I done wrong? Aren't Olivia and I both your daughters? All along, I thought that all parents in the world love their children, so I always comforted myself by thinking that my sister was younger and needed their care and attention more. But I forgot that Olivia was only 3 years younger than me. Olivia, dressed in Chanel, sat on the sofa arrogantly and said, "There's no need for so many heirs. Haven't you already lived with your boyfriend? Once you get married, this won't be your home anymore. We're just informing you a bit earlier now. And what about you? Won't you get married?" I asked. She raised her eyebrows and said, "Please, when I get married in the future, I'll definitely find someone from a similar family background. Then our two families can support each other and develop even better. What about you? What can your boyfriend do to help the family? I'm afraid your parents will have to subsidize you instead." Later, I walked out of the house in a daze and walked along the road until I reached the river. At the river, I sat from dusk till dawn. There were many moments when I wanted to jump in and end it all. In the end, I didn't jump. Instead, I saved a person from the water and got a huge opportunity. I could have ensured a worry-free life for myself in the future. But because of what Olivia said and being extremely infatuated, I handed this opportunity over to Marcus. It helped the Marcus family take off, and the Marcus family and the Grace family became related by marriage. But I died with hatred and didn't have a good end. Not this time. This time, I'll help you all achieve your wishes. On my way home from work, I was recalling the scene of saving that person back then and was preparing to save someone again, not for that opportunity but just to save a life. Maybe I was thinking too deeply, and I accidentally bumped into someone. Ouch! I bumped into a middle-aged couple. Coming back to my senses, I quickly apologized. I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention. Are you okay?" The middle-aged man waved his hand and looked at me, his lips trembling but unable to speak. The woman next to him was the same, with red eyes and an expression of nervousness and concern that couldn't be hidden. So I tentatively asked, "Are you here to look for me?" This sentence was like a switch. The middle-aged couple immediately rushed forward and hugged me into their arms. Baby, Mom is sorry. Mom has come to take you home." I was a bit nervous, looking at the woman who was crying loudly while hugging me. They didn't even verify my identity and just hugged me and cried. Had I run into human traffickers? Fortunately, the middle-aged man reacted in time. He took out the printed comparison proof and found a nearby restaurant, dragging me there to talk in detail. During the conversation, the middle-aged woman, that is my biological mother, hugged me and cried a lot. The process was quite eventful, and I won't go into details. Anyway, I successfully recognized my relatives. It was like a dream. I actually found my biological parents. Moreover, it wasn't that they didn't love me and deliberately abandoned me. They had been looking for me all these years. After chatting, they drove me back to my rented apartment. My father looked at the shabby neighborhood and wanted to say something but held back. He could hold back, but my mother couldn't. The tears that had just stopped started flowing again. Baby, you've suffered so much these years. Tonight, come with Mom and Dad to the hotel first. Tomorrow we'll go look at houses. Yes, my biological parents were rich. I thought the Grace family was rich enough, but I didn't expect that my biological parents were much richer than them. My father said, "Don't we have several houses in the city? Although they're a bit small, they're better than this place. Tomorrow we'll ask the housekeeping service to clean up one for Baby to live in first. We'll move again when the new house is renovated." No, that's not right. My mother's mind also caught up at this moment. Why should it be in the city? Baby should come back to our city with us. My father wholeheartedly agreed with this proposal. Of course, I'd be happy to go back to their city with them. But if I left now, how could I take revenge? After much persuasion, I managed to send them away. I went back to my small rented apartment alone. My head was still a bit dizzy. I couldn't believe that these were really my biological parents, not only rich but also loving me so much. At this moment, I was the happiest person in the world. In the following days, I played along with Marcus on the surface while preparing my grand revenge plan. I saved that old man at the same time and in the same place as I did in my previous life, not for his gratitude but simply to save his life. After sending him to the hospital and making sure he was okay, I left quietly. After a while, using the connections of my biological parents, I introduced a big business deal to Marcus. Just like in my previous life, before the introduction I made a request: we should get married. Marcus put his arm around me, being gentle and affectionate, and said, "Of course, my Grace deserves the best of everything." He was still waiting to get rich through me, so naturally he agreed to everything. However, he didn't know that in my previous life it was a real business opportunity, but in this life this big business deal was an abyss that would doom him to eternal damnation. It was a carefully crafted trap, a bottomless pit that neither the Marcus family nor the Grace family could fill, even if they combined all their resources. Yet, in the early stages it seemed flawless. The Marcus family's business flourished, and Marcus grew more energetic by the day. When the parents of both sides met before the engagement, he and Olivia added each other on social media. I knew it wouldn't be long before they got involved, so I installed hidden cameras at home and hired a private detective. Sure enough, Marcus' attitude towards me soon changed. He became increasingly impatient, often staying out all night. Whenever I asked, the answer was always social engagements. I didn't mind. As long as the engagement banquet proceeded as planned, everything was going according to my scheme. Amidst the various ulterior motives of everyone, the engagement banquet finally arrived. The Grace family, though not valuing me much, still had to maintain appearances. The Marcus family, a rising star in the city, also drew a lot of attention. I liked a lively atmosphere, and the livelier it was, the better. Thus, the engagement banquet was extremely grand, with a scale comparable to an ordinary family's wedding. Held in the city's most high-end five-star hotel and its top-notch banquet hall, with hundreds of tables of guests, it was the highest standard affair. At this time, Olivia wasn't so in love with Marcus that she had to marry him. Getting involved with him was just for fun and to spite me. So, she didn't object to the scale of the engagement banquet. I invited 7 or 8 tables of friends. In fact, I paid a group of internet celebrities to pose as my friends. Why? Of course, to broadcast the live situation of the engagement banquet in real time. After all the guests arrived, Marcus' parents sat in the front row, beaming with satisfaction. They were quite pleased with me, as I had brought them business opportunities, and they could climb the social ladder by connecting with the Grace family through me. They thought this daughter-in-law was a great catch. My adoptive parents and Olivia sat on the other side, while I waited in the lounge. This was my suggestion. I said the engagement banquet should have a sense of ceremony just like a wedding. After the ceremony started, I would enter from the banquet hall entrance, walk to the stage, and Marcus would propose to me. Soon the ceremony began, and the proceedings went smoothly one by one. Then came the part one had carefully designed, and the internet celebrities' recording devices were all set. Now let's invite our other protagonist today, the bride-to-be Grace, to enter, announced the host. The banquet hall doors opened and I walked in slowly wearing a red gown, exuding elegance and poise with every step. After careful styling, I looked stunning. Marcus was stunned for a moment, perhaps thinking that I, who usually didn't stand out, could be so beautiful with makeup. I smiled at him from afar, and he immediately returned his signature smile. The big screen played the sweet daily videos of Marcus and me, and the guests congratulated us loudly. Suddenly, the situation took a dramatic turn. The video on the screen was replaced by a short clip of Marcus and Olivia, and the volume was turned up to the maximum. The banquet hall instantly seemed like a pornographic film set, filled with moans and groans. At first, the guests didn't realize the female lead wasn't me. They thought our private video had been leaked and cast sympathetic, teasing, and lecherous looks. But looking at my expression, they sensed something was wrong. I stared fixedly at the big screen, my face contorted with blatant anger. I raised the microphone and shouted, "Marcus, do you know that Olivia is my own sister? How could you sleep with her behind my back?" I enunciated each word slowly, ensuring everyone present could hear clearly. Marcus' face turned ashen. He tried to turn off the big screen but didn't know how, scurrying around like a headless chicken. Olivia, already annoyed at me stealing the spotlight, was shocked to see her image on the screen in high definition. The scene descended into chaos. The guests didn't expect such a bombshell at an engagement banquet, and craned their necks for a better look. The internet celebrities couldn't sit still either. They found the best positions to watch the drama unfold, and some even started live broadcasts to share this unique engagement banquet with netizens. I walked quickly onto the stage and slapped Marcus hard across the face. "Marcus, you said you loved me, that you couldn't wait to marry me and take me home. Is this how eager you are?" I had tears in my eyes, my voice choked. I. Marcus didn't know whether to comfort me or turn off the screen first. I didn't give him a chance to speak and slapped him again. Then I pointed at Olivia and the audience. "One is my fiancée, and the other is my beloved younger sister. For so many years, are you two even human?" Olivia was stunned, not understanding what was happening. I didn't give them time to react. Tears streamed down my face, but I kept speaking. "Marcus, you always said your family had no money, that you weren't good enough for me, and that you didn't want others to call you a freeloader. I was worried about your pride, so I brought you easy money-making opportunities, introduced resources, and accompanied you to meet clients. Is this how you repay me?" I turned to Olivia. "You've loved to snatch my things since you were little. No matter what I had, you'd take it. In the end, I had to give everything to you and I was left with nothing. But Marcus is a person, my boyfriend, the husband who was supposed to accompany me for life. Do you have to steal him too?" At this point, I was sobbing uncontrollably. "Mom and Dad only love you. They made a will leaving all the family property to you. I already have nothing. Do you want to take away my last bit of happiness too?" The mention of the will shocked everyone. "Is this really something biological parents would do?" the guests whispered among themselves. My adoptive father rushed onto the stage, his face livid, and slapped me hard. "Are you crazy? What nonsense are you talking about? Come home with me right now. I won't go back. I won't go back. You and Mom will beat me to death if I go back." I signaled the security guards to stop them while crying loudly. The guests looked at me with even more sympathy. At this time, the video on the big screen changed again. The camera showed Marcus and Olivia sitting face to face in a coffee shop. They looked like a harmonious couple, but their conversation shocked everyone. "Olivia, is it true? Grace isn't your parents' biological child." Marcus looked shocked. Olivia had a gentle expression, but her words were vicious. "Of course. She was picked up from the garbage dump by my parents. She's just a piece of trash." It turned out that 20 years ago, the Grace couple, married for years without children, were advised by an expert to adopt a child. On the way to the orphanage, they found me in a garbage dump. 3 years after taking me in, Olivia was born. From then on, I became a redundant person. The expert had said they were destined to have no children, and that I was destined to have a younger sister. So, even after having a child, they couldn't drive me away, but they could turn a blind eye when Olivia bullied me and write a will leaving all the property to her. Marcus then asked, "Why did you tell me this?" Olivia smiled sweetly. "Because I think you're a good person, and I don't want you to be deceived by her." When Marcus and Olivia finally managed to turn off the big screen, the damage was done. Everyone had seen, heard, and understood everything. My adoptive parents were blocked by security guards and could only stand there cursing at me. Olivia, humiliated in front of so many people, screamed angrily, "Grace, you little slut! I'll kill you! Just wait." After cursing, she cried to my adoptive parents, "She's not my sister. She's a bastard. Why should she be part of the Grace family? I want to drive her out right now." Influenced by Olivia, my adoptive father made up his mind. "Olivia is right. You were never part of our family. We were kind enough to raise you and treat you like our own daughter, but you repay us like this. You ruined the engagement banquet and even made fake videos to frame your sister. Our Grace family can't tolerate a daughter as vicious and shameful as you." This was truly the pot calling the kettle black. He kept claiming the videos were fake, but the public could tell the truth at a glance. His attempts to whitewash the situation were futile. I held the microphone firmly, my voice still resounding through the banquet hall. "Dad, did you really treat me like your own daughter? Since Olivia was born, I've been nothing in this family, just Olivia's servant. I never had new clothes or toys. I only got the clothes Olivia wore out and threw away. I never knew what I did wrong to lose your and Mom's love. I worked so hard hoping you'd notice me and praise me. Only today do I realize that no matter how hard I tried, it was useless because I'm not your biological child." My adoptive father was even angrier seeing me like this. He broke through the security guards and slapped me twice more, knocking me to the ground. My face immediately swelled up. My adoptive mother rushed over. "Drive this dead girl out of the Grace family right now." So, in front of many relatives and friends, they forced themselves to look resolute and announced that they were cutting off all relations with me. They quickly signed the notarized document of severing relations. It was suspicious how quickly Olivia got that severance statement. I pretended to be reluctant as, under everyone's gaze, I was forced to sign and put my fingerprint on it. In reality, I was overjoyed inside. After signing, the Grace and Marcus families politely asked the guests to leave, dropping hints to suppress the news. But they didn't know that the friends I invited had already live-streamed the entire event, and by then, it had caused a huge stir on the internet. The internet celebrities left satisfied after feasting on the gossip and gaining popularity. Just when things seemed to calm down, a man and a woman, who clearly looked important, walked in with a group of people, exuding an imposing aura. No one wanted to leave now. They stayed to see what would happen next. I was still covering my face, pretending to cry. The moment I saw my biological parents, I felt extremely aggrieved, and tears flowed freely. My mother gave me a worried look and quickly looked away. I knew she was trying to keep the act going. My adoptive father, who had some social experience, felt my biological parents looked familiar when he saw them, but in his emotional turmoil, he couldn't remember where he had seen them. So, he spoke respectfully. "I'm Alex from the Grace family in the city. May I ask what brings you two here?" My father didn't want to deal with him but, for the sake of formality, reluctantly said, "I'm here to find my biological daughter, the one you picked up." My adoptive father froze and slowly turned to look at me. "You're saying Grace is your daughter?" My father nodded. Olivia wasn't happy and shouted, "Who the hell are you? You come in and say Grace is your daughter. She must have paid you to lie. She's just trash and should be with the trash." My father suppressed his anger. He didn't want to argue with a little girl and lose his dignity. He just looked at my adoptive father. "If you've been to our city, you should know me. I'm Edward, the richest man in the city." My adoptive father staggered back 2 steps, his legs weak. He remembered. He had seen Edward from a distance at a dinner party, and the woman beside him was indeed his wife. At that dinner party, he had heard that Edward's daughter had been abducted when she was young, and they had searched for her but had no news, assuming she was dead. Unexpectedly, the daughter he had raised for over 20 years was actually Edward's biological daughter. My parents, who had finally completed the formalities, didn't want to look at the Grace family anymore. They came to me and said gently, "Are you Grace? We are your mom and dad." Originally, they were supposed to stick to the script and pretend it was our first meeting, but when they saw my swollen cheek, my biological father got angry. He forgot all about the lines and formalities. Usually a calm and composed man, he glared at Alex. What happened to her face? Alex stammered but couldn't say a word. My father snorted and said to my mother, "Honey, let's take the child and leave. Let the others handle the rest." Although his words weren't threatening, everyone could tell he was extremely angry. Without looking at anyone else, they each put an arm around me and walked out of the banquet hall. Before leaving, I heard Olivia, still in a rage, screaming, "Who let her go? I'll make that bitch pay." What happened next didn't concern me, at least on the surface. After the engagement banquet, the Grace and Marcus families found that the farce had spread widely on the internet, and it was impossible to suppress the news. Privately, due to the influence of the two families, they had both lost face. With my deliberate inaction, the Marcus family's business initially seemed unaffected. So, for the sake of interests and to regain face, Marcus and Olivia got engaged again. But this time it was very low-key. The two families gathered, invited a few tables of relatives, had a meal, and it was over. Compared to my grand but chaotic engagement banquet, theirs was hasty. Olivia had always hated me. She didn't care about my suffering at the engagement banquet. She only cared that her long-awaited engagement ceremony was so rushed. Moreover, reliable sources said that for the sake of binding interests, Olivia and Marcus got their marriage certificates on the day of their engagement. So she hated me even more. However, I didn't expect her to be so stupid as to repeat the same tricks from my past life. In the dead of night, 4 or 5 hooligans blocked me in an alley and, under the cover of darkness, took me to an abandoned warehouse. When I saw the warehouse, I was dazed. After all that had happened, I was back in the same place where I had suffered so much in my past life. Taking a few deep breaths, I told myself that this time I was prepared. As soon as I was inside, I was pushed roughly to the ground, covered in dust. With a terrified look, I cowered and backed away. "How much money do you want? I can give it to you. Please let me go." The hooligans approached with a sinister grin. "I'm not short of money. I just want to have some fun with you today." Just as his hand was about to touch my clothes, the warehouse door was kicked open. Taking advantage of the hooligan's shock, I stood up and ran towards the door. It didn't matter that I didn't get a confession. I knew the police would handle it. Sure enough, the police arrived quickly and took the hooligans away. They were very efficient and soon sorted out the connection between Olivia and the hooligans. Then they arrested Olivia on suspicion of kidnapping. The Grace family panicked. They begged for help, gave gifts, and tried to pull strings. Eventually, they came to me. "Grace, Olivia is your sister, the sister you grew up with. How could you be so cruel to her?" My adoptive mother, who looked 10 years older, finally bowed her head to me. "It's not that I'm cruel. She's the one who was cruel to me. The evidence of her hiring people to kidnap me is there, and there's nothing I can do." My adoptive father, seeing that my biological father hadn't intervened, became bolder when talking to me. "But you didn't get hurt, did you? Since nothing serious happened, can't you forgive your sister? She's still young." I was so angry at his shameless words that I laughed. "Just because I didn't get hurt doesn't mean it didn't happen. Then why are you coming to me? Olivia is still alive, isn't she?" I didn't want to see their faces anymore, so I called the security guards to escort them out. During this time, the Marcus family made a lot of money, and the Grace family, as their in-laws, also developed well. After working together on several short-term trades, they made a fortune and became more and more complacent. So, in the most recent trade, they invested all their funds, even borrowing a large amount from the bank through mortgages. The Marcus family wanted to expand further, and the Grace family wanted to spend money to get Olivia out of trouble. While the Grace family was busy trying to save Olivia, I made my move. Their dreams of getting rich shattered, and everything fell apart. Their companies went bankrupt and they had to liquidate and compensate. Their villas and luxury cars were all taken away. and the two families had to move to the shabby neighborhood where I used to live with Marcus. My adoptive father, who had high blood pressure and coronary heart disease, had a stroke when he heard about the total loss. With her husband in critical condition and her daughter in legal trouble, my adoptive mother's hair turned white overnight. In the end, Olivia's crime of hiring people to kidnap was confirmed, and she was sentenced to 3 years in prison. But when she was about to be taken into custody, it was discovered that she was pregnant, so her sentence was changed to serve outside prison. I laughed. She thought she was lucky, but who could say for sure? I managed to get the video of her having an affair with other men and sent it to Marcus. When he saw the video, he flew into a rage. He was cold-hearted and possessive. He had been with me only for my family's property, and when he found out I was adopted, he hooked up with Olivia. Now that the Grace family was bankrupt, Olivia was in trouble, and she had cheated on him. He couldn't stand it. He took his mother to confront Olivia. During the argument, Olivia pushed Marcus's mother, and her head hit the steps, knocking her unconscious on the spot. Seeing his mother in such a state, Marcus was consumed by fury. Remembering that Olivia was serving her sentence outside prison only because of her pregnancy, and suspecting that the baby in her belly might not be his anger reached a boiling point. He kicked her belly with all his might. By the time others pulled them apart, Olivia was bleeding profusely from her lower body. Rushed to the hospital, it was determined that she had lost the baby and, as a result of the trauma, would never be able to conceive again. Meanwhile, Marcus's mother never regained consciousness. Both Olivia and Marcus were subsequently charged with intentional injury. This time there was no escape for either of them. They were both hauled off to prison, finally facing the consequences of their actions. After the downfall of the Grace and Marcus families, I returned to my biological parents' city and moved into their magnificent manor. My parents were overcome with sadness and guilt for the years they had lost with me. Before finding me, they had chosen not to have another child or adopt, remaining a pair dedicated to the search for their long-lost daughter. They had even made plans to donate all their wealth in the future, having lost hope of ever being reunited with me. But now that their beloved daughter was back by their side, they were determined to make up for all the lost time. I was showered with affection, pampered like a princess. Gorgeous designer clothes, dazzling jewelry, and luxurious accessories continuously made their way into my expansive cloakroom. My mother's favorite pastime became accompanying me on shopping sprees, delightedly buying me anything and everything that caught my eye, reveling in dressing me up in the most opulent of ensembles. My father, on the other hand, was eager to introduce me to the upper echelons of society. He would enthusiastically take me to various high-profile banquets and events, patiently and proudly introducing me to everyone he knew. In his eyes, I was the most precious gem in the world, and he wanted the entire world to know that I was the cherished daughter of the Edward family. Quite coincidentally, at one of these glamorous dinner parties, I crossed paths with the old man I had saved before. After waking up in the hospital, he reviewed the surveillance footage and learned that it was I who had come to his rescue. He had been searching for me ever since to express his heartfelt gratitude, and now our paths finally converged. He greeted me with a warm, kind smile, his eyes filled with appreciation. "I never expected to run into you here. This is perfect. My grandson has just returned from abroad. Let me introduce you to." He waved over his grandson, and as I looked up, I saw a tall, handsome young man making his way towards us. Sensing my gaze, he lifted his wine glass slightly in a gesture of greeting, a charming smile playing on his lips. "Hello, I'm Rhett." His voice was smooth and confident. I returned his smile, feeling a flutter of excitement. "Hello, I'm Diana." Yes, I had reclaimed my original name, symbolizing the start of my new life, a life filled with endless possibilities. And as for what the future held, well, that remained a beautiful mystery, waiting to be unraveled.